championship game, the national championship game. So I think our players, have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They're excited to get back out and have a chance to compete. Got a lot of new faces, and we'll see. There's been a lot of talk about this game and a lot of speculation, and so I think our guys are just ready to go play football and put all that behind them. And excuse me, let's just go out and play and see what happens now. And so it's that time of year, and it's an exciting time, and I think our guys are looking forward to it and feel like we're in a good spot. If there's not a college football coach that's doing a press conference right now across the country that doesn't feel good about his team. And so, the good thing is we get to go out on Saturday and find out.
How's the preparation been for Colorado now that you guys have a little more time to look at their players?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, there's, I'm not completely sure that we know exactly what we're preparing for. I think that's, the first games are always a little bit unique because of that. Then you throw in the first game with a new coaching staff, makes it more unique. And then you throw in, new coaches, new staff, new team, new year, new players, kind of everything. So there's a lot of unknowns going into the first game. I mean, you do the best you can to speculate and obviously to prepare based on what these coaches have done in the past, but you don't know what they're going to do with these players, and you don't know how these guys fit their system or the adjustments they're going to make. And so we got to be willing to and able to adapt as the game goes along, and make sure that we are really prepared for anything, because we're liable to see anything. That's just the way it is in the first game, and again, especially when you're dealing with as many unknowns that we're dealing with this week. So that's been a different preparation than maybe it normally is. Typically, you watch the game film from last year, and I haven't bothered watching the Colorado game one time, from last season. There's no reason to, really. And so, we've watched a lot of other game films, different schools, looking at schemes, obviously, and then players at previous schools and that kind of thing. But you do the best you can to get ready, and then I think that you got to focus on yourself. And I think from a preparation standpoint, I think we feel pretty good about where we are. I think obviously first game, you've got a little bit of extra time to focus on your opponent. I think we feel pretty good about our game plan in terms of our ability to go out and execute it. And now we just got to go play football.
Coach, when you think about some of the messages that you gave this team last year, consistently do your job, control what you can control, and not worry about some other stuff.
Yep.
And how you've had to prepare for this Colorado game, is that message still kind of building up?
Yeah, I think every team is different, and I think that the do your job thing last year is obviously something that we believe in, and I certainly believe in. Felt like that was a really poignant message for that team, just from the standpoint of, we had never done anything together, and so what happens sometimes is you take over a program, things either go well or they don't go particularly well, and then, if things go good, you think you have this sense of, we've got this figured out. If things don't go good, then you have this sense of panic that takes place. And so, we'd really just tried to focus last year on, look, we have an assignment on every play, we have an alignment, we have a technique, we have to play with these things every play, and just focus on doing your job and not worrying about anybody else, and don't react, and just trying to keep the team emotionally stable. I think that was the challenge for last year. My perception had been that there had been some highs and lows kind of from an emotional standpoint with TCU, and that's kind of in the past, and that was kind of why we chose to really try to sell that to our players last year. It was pretty intentional about that, and it just became kind of something that we all believed in as we went along through the season, and the games got bigger, and there became more distractions and all this stuff. It just was a simple way to look at it. And I think this year we're going to, that's certainly not going to change. I think this year, to me, it's just about earning respect. I think that that's what we need to do as a program. We have an opportunity to do that. I think the narrative in college football is kind of TCU got lucky, and TCU was lucky to win this game or lucky to win that game, and and I think we certainly feel that as coaches, and I know our players kind of feel that way, that I think that we have a lot to prove, and I think we want to prove to people that last year wasn't a fluke, and we're a team that's week in, week out going to have a chance to win and play at a high level. And so I think there is a little bit of maybe more of a chip on our shoulder this year than there was last year because of that. But I do think look, it comes down to the same thing. I mean, motivation is when it comes from the coaches, it's never a good thing. When it comes from the players and the leaders, and it comes from the players themselves, that's when you have a good football team. And that took us about a month, I think, to figure out last year that we had those kind of players and those kind of people in our program, and we'll see how this year goes. I mean, we think we know what we have, but until you have to line up there and you have to do it for 80, 85 plays, in 110-degree heat index, you just don't know what you have really. And, and we'll know a lot more at 4 o'clock on Saturday, than we do, or 3 o'clock on Saturday than we do right now. But we feel pretty good about where we are.
Last time we talked to you, Coach, you were talking about getting your depth chart put together. You guys feel comfortable with where your depth chart is right now?
Yeah, I do. I think when you sit around, you look at all the positions, we feel pretty good about our depth. And now I think that the funny thing about depth charts sometimes is, you focus on 11 guys, and what's good is, for us, we feel like we're 2.5 deep at most positions, which last year I think we felt like we were 1.5 deep maybe, and at some positions and maybe 1 deep at others. And so, we'll see if that's actually true. As I said on Saturday, I mean, we can think that all we want until those guys go out there and prove it. And some of those spots are filled by some young players that have never done it or haven't done it at this level or haven't done it consistently. And so, we'll see how they can adapt and adjust and can they do it with the consistent level of performance that you have to have a great football team. And so, that's what's fun about Saturday is we get to find all that out. And we get to really become certain of that. And then, we'll take that game on Saturday and show it to our players and really break it down. And those guys will learn from it and hopefully, be better the following week. And that's kind of the progression that takes place.
Last year at this time, we didn't know yet the channel was going to be the starter, but
Right.
We all know what happened. But how much more prepared is he? What do you see different in him this game week leading into?
Yeah, it just seems different. I think, first-time starter last year was probably a little unsettled. I think that was probably the word that comes to mind. But I think we kind of were as a program, you know what I mean? I mean, there was just a lot of questions to be answered, and I think Chandler is just like our program. I think he's further along. I think that he's a little bit more established. I think he's still has a lot to prove. But I think he feels more confident. I think he feels like that he's got a really good supporting cast and he doesn't have to go out there and do it himself. And I do think he got to see, the formula for winning football games last season. And I think when you look at us, we were 13-0 when we won the turnover margin. You know what I mean? And we were 0-2 when we tied it or lost it. And so, that's obviously, he learned from that, learned how to not take chances with the football and do all the things that, that good quarterbacks do to give yourself a chance to win. And Chandler's capable of making those big splash plays, but I think he's learned that he doesn't have to do that. Just take the consistent plays and keep stacking those and move on.
Coach, in terms of Travis Hunter, how do you game plan for a guy like that?
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously a really talented football player. I mean, it's interesting, somebody playing, two ways. That'll be interesting to see how they use him. I don't think that we have any idea, how much he's going to play on either side of the ball. I think we all have our guesses of what it's going to look like, but I don't know that we know that, and that's always different and interesting. He's a talented guy, does a good job going and getting the ball. He can obviously run. He made a bunch of big plays offensively last year when they needed him to, and my guess is that'll be his role this year when he goes in the game. I'm sure they're going to try to figure out how to get him the football. And when they do, we're going to have to do a good job of of playing the ball in the air and being physical with him, and and not letting him run through our defense unimpeded. We got to do a good job getting our hands on him, trying to slow him down, get him out of rhythm, and he can go up and, like I said, make plays with the football when it's in the air, and we've got to do a good job of battling and making sure we're in position to make those plays.
So outside of Ish or Thomas, you guys aren't expecting to be available?
Say it again.
Outside of Ish or Thomas, you guys aren't expecting to be?
Yeah, Ish, Cam Cook probably won't play. He's got a little bit of an ankle. Really, that's it.
What kind of preparations are you making for the Heat? I know you practice.
Yeah. We can't really do much. I mean, the thing about it is one thing that it's pretty consistent, our message all the time about, nutrition and hydration and preparing for Saturdays. We talk to our guys about it, that preparation really has to start taking place on Monday, where, guys have to start hydrating, making sure they're eating correctly, using the supplementation that they can to get themselves ready. Some guys, the heat really bothers. We've had players lose. Jared Wiley had a practice last week. He lost 17 pounds in one practice. And so you have to kind of know who loses weight and who doesn't. And, our guys do a good job of eating during the game. If you see our football players on the sideline, the guys are constantly eating, trying to keep their energy, trying to keep their weight up. We're just big believers in the correlation between what somebody weighs and how they perform and how they feel. So anyway, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. Obviously, practicing. We're a morning practice team, so we get out there and practice outdoors in the heat. We've done that pretty consistently. We went in one day this week. We stayed out there today. We'll probably go out there again in the heat tomorrow. So I feel like our guys are pretty acclimated, but it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot. The game's going to be a fast game. I'm sure they're going to play with tempo. We're going to play with tempo, and there's going to be a lot of stress on those players. And we've just got to do a good job of rotating guys. Again, I think that our depth and how we feel about that will certainly get tested on Saturday. I think we feel pretty good about it, but we'll find out. And we're going to have to play with more than 11 on offense and defense, I can assure you. My guess is more like high 20s will play on each side of the ball is my guess, and that's the way it ought to be anyway.
Are there any advantages?
I think so. I mean, look, we're used to it. I mean, we're here all the time. I mean, our players, most of these guys grew up in Texas, and they've dealt with this kind of heat their entire life, and they're accustomed to it. And honestly, I think they're excited about it. I think they're excited about the challenge of fighting through it. I know there's been some guys talking about, they're looking forward to seeing, how they respond and how they can do and how they push through it.
Coach, we know Dalen Wright showed up late in fall camp. How's he?
Good. Yeah, Dalen's been really good. I mean, he's picked things up a little faster, honestly, than I thought he would. He's been really consistent. He's had a great attitude. The kid's really hungry. Love his mentality. He's a very competitive guy. He's one of those guys who's fighting for reps all the time. He wants to stay out there and get better. He's a guy you kind of drag him off the practice field. He wants to get out there early and too early sometimes. And so he's exactly what you want, just in terms of his preparation. And I feel good about where he is. Now he's got to go do it in a game. I think that's the biggest thing. When you sit down and you look at all those receivers that we have, it's a talented group. Some guys have made plays. I mean, he's made plays at Minnesota, and we've got guys that made plays at other schools, but they haven't done it here. And so, I think for us to feel completely good about it and certain about it, then, you're going to have to go out there and do it Saturday and for a couple of Saturdays, and then you can start to go, okay, I feel good about where we are.
Technology and other things to monitor their reps and their output and efficiency and all that sort of thing. We hear this phrase pitch count. How many guys were on a pitch count, if at all?
Yeah, we've had a number. I mean, again, if you have a guy like Jared Wiley that goes out and loses 17 pounds, then, you have to be pretty smart about what you do with him the next day. You know what I mean? And you don't want to put somebody through that 4 consecutive days. It's so, you've just got to be smart, and it begins really with common sense and understanding that, okay, what's the objective? Our objective is to have the best football team available to us on September 2nd. Okay, so that's the objective. Well, then let's figure out how to get there. And, and then now you have to manage reps accordingly. You know what I mean? And I think that's the way it has to be. And, as I said, you have some players that, everybody's built different, everybody reacts different, everybody is stressed a little bit different than other guys. And, some guys can go out and practice forever and they never get tired. Other guys need a break. Some quarterbacks can throw balls and not get their arms sore, and other guys get sore. It's just, you just have to figure out who they are, how they respond, and then, devise a plan for them accordingly. And I think, to me, that's one of the reasons that we've had success with transfers and guys that maybe haven't been successful someplace else, is because we'll think a little bit outside the box and try to find a way to create an environment for that person to be successful, whether that's how we coach them, whether that's what they do from a strength and conditioning standpoint, whether that's what we have to do with them with additional meeting time. Our job is to take what we have, take the ingredients we have, and to bake the best cake with it. And sometimes it's not exactly what you want, but you've got to make the most of it. You got to figure out what guys can do. And I was lucky. I worked for some coaches at some places where they had to do it that way. We didn't always have all the 5-star players, and we didn't have, the guys that were good at everything, but we had guys that could contribute in some way. We had players that could get good at one thing or another. And so, that's kind of the way I learned, and that's the way we try to do things. We believe that everybody can do something, and everybody can get really good at something. And then the great players get good at a lot of those things, and the role players have one or two things that they do well.
Is there anything different with this game with Colorado coming to the Big 12 next year, knowing that this will be?
Yeah, in some ways, yeah, but not really. It's a game. You know what I mean? I think that, if you want to be great at something, every game has to matter. And I think that's what makes college football fun and unique and, and different is, we were just talking about load management, but there's really no load management in college football. In other words, you don't go, well, we can lose these 2 games and kind of get where we want to go in the end. You know what I mean? We can, you don't say, well, we're in the playoffs, so let's don't play our starters. And every game is really critical, and especially, again, when you're fighting for respect. I think you have to go out and play well, because people are always going to point out, the bad game, and they're going to, and you're going to get held kind of to that standard. And so that's, you have to ensure that doesn't happen. And so for us, I've always said this, every game counts the same. We don't circle games. We don't put extra emphasis on games. It's like I say all the time, you don't think losing, to North Texas matters. Well, lose to North Texas, and you'll see how much it matters. You know what I mean? And I think that's the way that stuff goes sometimes. And you just you got to go prepared at a high level and get yourself ready to play every week. And this game is no different. Again, we've been working toward this since January 11th. So our guys will be excited, and they'll take it very seriously, and they'll play hard, and then we'll learn from it and hopefully keep getting better.
Coach, this offense is, hey Coach, this offense is fairly new. There's a lot of skilled players that obviously have left.
Yep.
But in terms of Saturday, what do you hope to see from your offense regarding these new skilled players?
Yeah, I'm hoping to see the guys play clean. I think that's the biggest thing you want to see early in the season is, you want to see an offense that can go out there and execute at a high level. That doesn't have busts, where we know our assignments. You want to see guys take care of the football. All the ball security things that we preach all the time, and the importance of playing with fundamentals. You want to see those things happen during the ball game. You want to see a good, clean game from a concentration standpoint. You don't want to have false starts. You don't want to have penalties. You don't want to do things that make it hard on you. And then you want to play with tempo. And the big thing for us, I think, and it's going to be really important, we're going to need to play really physical. I think that's going to be the one of the most important things in this ball game is whoever the most physical team is, I think it will probably have a great chance to win. And so we're going to need to have a really tough physical mindset, whether it's up front, whether it's our running backs picking up blitzes, because I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that, or whether it's our receivers blocking down the field. You know, we're going to need to be very, very physical and play a tough brand of football and play clean, you know, and quarterbacks make good decisions, protect the ball, and that's really the most important thing.
Last question?
Sonny,
Yeah.
just on Colorado as well, Shedeur Sanders, what have been your impressions, and did you get a chance to see him at Trinity Christian?
Yeah. So, saw him play in high school. Was impressed with him as a high school player. You know, certainly was on our radar, you know, at the school I was at previously. And so, you know, saw him play quite a bit. You know, Deion's older son played at SMU. So they were, you know, around the program a little bit, and I was kind of familiar with Deion and his family a little bit, and obviously knew about Shedeur. And, you know, I've seen him progress. I mean, he's done exactly what you would expect a young, talented quarterback to do. He just gets better all the time. He's, you know, he's a threat to run the football. He does a nice job of understanding how to throw the ball. I mean, he's, you know, throws the ball to spots. He's does a good job throwing on the run. He moves around well, does a nice job in the pockets, good decision maker. I think has a lot of confidence in his ability and his teammates' ability. You know, and I think so he's, you know, you can see the progression of that young quarterback, and I think he's taken a lot of snaps, and I think the fact that he's played so much, I think will serve him well, you know, going into the game Saturday. I mean, he's experienced, and he's done it before, and, you know, like I said, I think he's got a lot of confidence in his ability and his supporting cast ability as well. Thanks, Coach. Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate y'all.